When Bang Chan suddenly asks stray kids to leave, confusion and heartbreak erupt, yet the shocking truth only emerges when they return. The room was heavy with silence, broken only by Bang Chan's trembling voice. "I need all of you to go, now." His words cut through the air like a blade, leaving the members frozen in disbelief. Felix's eyes widened, Hyunjin's fists clenched, and Han's voice cracked as he whispered, "Why, Hyung?" But Chan didn't answer. He simply turned his back, shoulders rigid, as if carrying a weight too unbearable to share. The dorm door slammed shut behind them, and the night outside felt colder than usual. The members scattered into the city streets, each drowning in confusion and hurt. Sumin replayed Chan's expression in his mind, those haunted eyes, the way his lips trembled as though holding back a secret. In clung to Hyunjin's arm, whispering that something was terribly wrong, yet none of them dared to return, not yet. Inside, Chan collapsed onto the floor, his breath shallow, his hands shaking. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating him with memories he had tried so hard to bury. A letter lay crumpled on the desk, its ink smudged by tears. He had hidden it for weeks, terrified of what it meant, terrified of how the others would see him if they knew. Tonight the burden had become too heavy, and sending them away was the only way he could protect them, from himself, from the truth. Hours passed. The city lights dimmed and the members finally gathered again, unable to resist the pull of worry. They returned to the dorm, hearts pounding, only to find Chan still on the floor, pale and broken. The letter was no longer hidden. Its words revealed the truth he had tried to shield them from, a truth that explained his sudden demand, his silence, his pain. And as they read, the room filled not with anger, but with a devastating understanding that changed everything. The story of Bang Chan's secret was no longer his alone. It was theirs to carry together. And though the revelation shattered them, it also bound them tighter than ever before, forcing each member to confront not only Chan's demons but their own. Episode 2 begins not with calm, but with the echo of footsteps rushing back into the dorm. Hyunjin was the first to push the door open, his breath sharp, his eyes darting across the dimly lit room. The sight of Bang Chan still crumpled on the floor sent a jolt through him. Felix followed, his voice trembling as he whispered, "Hyung, what happened to you?" The others crowded in, their faces pale, their hearts pounding with dread. The letter lay open now, its words no longer hidden. Sumin bent down, his fingers brushing the paper as though it might burn him. The ink revealed fragments of a truth that none of them had expected, confessions of sleepless nights, the crushing weight of responsibility, and a secret that gnawed at Chan's soul. He had been protecting them from something far darker than exhaustion. His silence was not rejection, it was sacrifice. Han's voice broke the tension, raw and desperate. "Why didn't you tell us? We're your family, we're supposed to carry this together." Chan lifted his head, his eyes bloodshot, his lips trembling as he tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat, strangled by fear and guilt. He had always been the leader, the anchor, the one who held them steady. To admit weakness felt like betrayal. Yet now, surrounded by the people he had tried to shield, he realized the walls he built were crumbling. Ian knelt beside him, his hand resting gently on Chan's shoulder. "You don't have to fight alone anymore," he whispered, his voice steady despite the tears streaming down his face. The room filled with silence again, but this time it was not cold. It was heavy with unspoken promises, with the weight of shared pain and unyielding loyalty. Outside, the city buzzed with life, oblivious to the storm raging inside the dorm. But within those walls, stray kids faced a new reality. Their leader was broken, their bond tested, and the truth revealed a path filled with danger and uncertainty. Each member carried their own fears, their own doubts, yet none of them stepped back. They had returned not just to comfort Chan, but to stand with him against whatever shadows haunted his soul. The night stretched on, filled with whispered conversations, trembling hands, and the quiet resolve of brothers who refused to let one of their own fall. And though the truth had shattered the illusion of safety, it also ignited a fire within them, a determination to uncover the full story, to confront the darkness together, no matter how terrifying it might be. Episode 3 opens with the dorm cloaked in a suffocating silence, the kind that presses against the skin and makes every breath feel heavier. Bang Chan sat upright now, though his body still trembled as if the weight of the letter had carved itself into his bones. The members surrounded him, each carrying their own storm of emotions, anger, fear, confusion, but above all, a desperate need to understand. Felix broke the silence first, his voice low but sharp. "Hyung, you can't keep this from us anymore. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." His words hung in the air, trembling with both determination and vulnerability. Chan's eyes flickered toward him, then away, as though the truth itself was too dangerous to meet head-on. Hyunjin paced the room, his frustration spilling into every movement. Do you realize what you did to us? Sending us away like that, it felt like you were cutting us out of your life. His voice cracked, betraying the pain beneath his anger. Seungmin, ever the observer, leaned against the wall, his gaze fixed on Chan with a mixture of suspicion and empathy. He knew there was more to the story than the letter revealed. Chan finally spoke, his voice hoarse, each word dragged out like a confession. I thought if I carried it alone you wouldn't have to suffer, I thought I could protect you. His hands clenched into fists, nails digging into his palms. But the truth, it's bigger than me, it's something I can't control. Han stepped forward, his usual playful demeanor stripped away, leaving only raw sincerity. We're not afraid of suffering if it means standing with you. That's what family is, that's what Stray Kids is. His words struck deep, pulling Chan's gaze back to the circle of faces around him. The atmosphere shifted, heavy but resolute. Each member carried their own scars, their own battles, but now they realized Chan's secret was not just his burden, it was theirs too. The dorm seemed smaller, the air thicker, as though the walls themselves were listening. Outside, the city lights flickered, casting shadows that stretched long and ominous across the floor. Ien's voice, soft yet unwavering, cut through the tension. Then tell us everything, no more hiding, no more walls. His words were not a plea but a command. A demand born from love and fear. Chan inhaled sharply, his chest rising and falling as though preparing for a plunge into darkness. The truth was clawing its way out, and though he feared it would shatter them, he knew it was the only way forward. The members leaned closer, their hearts pounding in unison, bracing themselves for the revelation that would change everything. The night was far from over, and the storm inside the dorm was only beginning to unfold. Episode 3 opens with the dorm cloaked in a suffocating silence, the kind that presses against the skin and makes every breath feel heavier. Bang Chan sat upright now, though his body still trembled as if the weight of the letter had carved itself into his bones. The members surrounded him, each carrying their own storm of emotions, anger, fear, confusion, but above all, a desperate need to understand. Felix broke the silence first, his voice low but sharp. Hyung, you can't keep this from us anymore. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. His words hung in the air, trembling with both determination and vulnerability. Chan's eyes flickered toward him, then away, as though the truth itself was too dangerous to meet head-on. Hyunjin paced the room, his frustration spilling into every movement. Do you realize what you did to us? Sending us away like that, it felt like you were cutting us out of your life. His voice cracked, betraying the pain beneath his anger. Seungmin, ever the observer, leaned against the wall, his gaze fixed on Chan with a mixture of suspicion and empathy. He knew there was more to the story than the letter revealed. Chan finally spoke, his voice hoarse, each word dragged out like a confession. I thought if I carried it alone you wouldn't have to suffer, I thought I could protect you. His hands clenched into fists, nails digging into his palms. But the truth, it's bigger than me, it's something I can't control. Han stepped forward, his usual playful demeanor stripped away, leaving only raw sincerity. We're not afraid of suffering if it means standing with you. That's what family is, that's what Stray Kids is. His words struck deep, pulling Chan's gaze back to the circle of faces around him. The atmosphere shifted, heavy but resolute. Each member carried their own scars, their own battles, but now they realized Chan's secret was not just his burden, it was theirs too. The dorm seemed smaller, the air thicker, as though the walls themselves were listening. Outside, the city lights flickered, casting shadows that stretched long and ominous across the floor. Ien's voice, soft yet unwavering, cut through the tension. Then tell us everything, no more hiding, no more walls. His words were not a plea but a command, a demand born from love and fear. Chan inhaled sharply, his chest rising and falling as though preparing for a plunge into darkness. The truth was clawing its way out, and though he feared it would shatter them, he knew it was the only way forward. The members leaned closer, their hearts pounding in unison, bracing themselves for the revelation that would change everything. The night was far from over, and the storm inside the dorm was only beginning to unfold. Episode 4 begins with the dorm lights dimmed, shadows stretching across the walls like silent witnesses to the storm brewing inside. Bang Chan sat at the center, his hands trembling as he finally unfolded the truth he had tried so hard to conceal. The members leaned in, their breaths shallow, their hearts pounding in unison, waiting for the words that would either break them apart or bind them forever. Chan's voice was fragile, yet each syllable carried the weight of years. There's something I never told you, something I thought I could fight alone, but it's been consuming me. and I was afraid it would consume all of you too. His confession hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Hyunjin's eyes burned with both anger and sorrow. You think we're that fragile? You think we'd abandon you because of this? His tone was sharp, but beneath it lay desperation, a plea for Chan to trust them. Felix reached out, his hand brushing Chan's arm, grounding him in the present. Hyung, we've seen you carry us through everything. Let us carry you now. The letter's words had revealed fragments of Chan's torment, but now his voice painted the full picture. Sleepless nights haunted by visions, the crushing responsibility of being the leader, and a secret tied to something darker, an external force that had been pressing against him, threatening not only his sanity but the group's unity. He had been approached, manipulated, and burdened by expectations that no one else knew existed. Han's usual lightheartedness was gone, replaced by a raw intensity. So all this time you were protecting us from something bigger than exhaustion, from someone or something. His words cut deep, and Chan's silence confirmed it. The room grew colder, as though the truth itself had drawn the warmth away. Seungmin's analytical gaze sharpened. Then we need to know who's behind this. If they're targeting you, they're targeting all of us. His voice was steady, but his fists clenched at his sides. In, the youngest, spoke with a quiet strength that surprised them all. We can't undo what's already happened, but we can face what's coming, together. His words carried a maturity born from fear, but also from love. Chan's eyes finally lifted, meeting each of theirs. For the first time in weeks, his expression softened, not with relief, but with the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone anymore. The members had returned not just to comfort him, but to stand against the shadows that threatened to tear them apart. Outside, the city pulsed with life, oblivious to the battle being waged inside the dorm. But within those walls, stray kids had crossed a threshold. The secret was no longer hidden, the burden no longer carried alone. And though the path ahead was uncertain, one truth had crystallized: they would face it together, no matter how terrifying the darkness might be. Episode 5 begins with the dorm plunged into a fragile calm, but beneath that silence lurked a storm ready to break. The members had heard fragments of Bang Chan's confession, yet the full scope of the threat remained hidden in shadows. The letter had hinted at manipulation, at forces pressing against him, but now the weight of those words began to take shape in their minds. Hyunjin sat by the window, staring out at the city lights, his reflection fractured in the glass. If someone's been pulling strings behind Chan Hyung's back, then it's not just his fight, it's ours too. His voice carried a sharp edge, but his eyes betrayed fear. Felix, sitting cross-legged on the floor, nodded slowly, his fingers tracing invisible patterns on the wood. We need to know who's behind this. Otherwise, we're just waiting for the next blow. Chan's gaze was distant, his body tense as though bracing for impact. They wanted me to make choices that would tear us apart. They said if I didn't comply, stray kids would suffer. That's why I told you to leave. I thought if you weren't here, you'd be safe. His words cracked, each syllable heavy with guilt. Han leaned forward, his voice trembling but resolute. Safe? Hyung, we're not safe if you're breaking alone. We're not safe if we don't know what's coming. Seungmin's sharp tone followed, cutting through the air. Then tell us everything. Names, places, whatever you know, we can't fight shadows. The tension thickened, the air heavy with unspoken dread. Chan hesitated, his lips parting as though the truth itself was poison. Finally he whispered, it's not just one person, it's a network. People who see us as pawns, who think stray kids is something they can control. His voice faltered, but the revelation sent a chill through the room. Ian's eyes widened, his voice barely audible. So this isn't just about you, it's about all of us. The youngest's words carried a weight that silenced the room. The dorm seemed to shrink, the walls pressing closer as the enormity of the threat settled in. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but inside, stray kids faced a truth that threatened not only their bond, but their very existence as a group. Chan's shoulders slumped, his strength drained, but his eyes finally met theirs with fragile determination. If you stay, you'll be dragged into this. If you leave, maybe you'll be spared. But Hyunjin's voice cut through, fierce and unwavering. We're not leaving, not now, not ever. The members exchanged glances, their fear mingling with resolve. The storm had revealed itself, and though the path ahead was treacherous, one truth remained unshaken. They would face it together, no matter how dark the shadows became. Episode 6 begins with the dorm no longer feeling like a sanctuary, but a battlefield waiting to erupt. The members had sworn to stand with Bang Chan, but the shadows he spoke of were no longer abstract. They were beginning to move against them. It started with subtle signs. Their schedules were suddenly altered without explanation, interviews cancelled at the last minute, and whispers of tension spread through the company corridors. Sumin noticed it first, his sharp eyes catching the way staff avoided their gaze, as if carrying secrets too dangerous to share. Hyunjin's frustration boiled over, his voice echoing in the dorm. "They're trying to isolate us, piece by piece." Chan sat quietly, his face pale, his body tense. "This is what I feared. They want to break our unity. If they succeed, Stray Kids won't survive." His words carried the weight of inevitability, but Felix shook his head fiercely. "No, we've faced storms before. This time we fight back." Han's laughter was hollow, stripped of its usual warmth. "Fight back against what, though? We don't even know who's pulling the strings." His voice cracked, betraying the fear beneath his sarcasm. In, the youngest, clenched his fists, his voice trembling but resolute. "Then we find out. We can't just sit here waiting to be destroyed." The tension grew thicker, the air heavy with dread. Chan finally revealed more, his voice low and broken. "They approached me with offers, promises of success, of control, but the price was you. They wanted me to choose between my dream and my family." His confession sent a chill through the room, each member struck by the enormity of the betrayal. Hyunjin slammed his hand against the wall, his anger spilling out. "So they think they can buy you, buy us, they don't know who we are." His defiance lit a spark in the others, a fire that began to burn through the fear. Outside, the city pulsed with indifferent life, but inside the dorm, Stray Kids had made a silent vow. The network had revealed its hand, and though the path ahead was dangerous, they would not be pawns. They would uncover the truth, confront the shadows, and protect each other no matter the cost. Bang Chan's eyes, once clouded with guilt, now glimmered with fragile determination. "If they want to tear us apart, they'll have to face all of us, together." The storm was no longer approaching, it had arrived, and Stray Kids, bound by pain and loyalty, were ready to step into the darkness. Episode 7 begins with the air inside the dorm vibrating with tension, as though the walls themselves were bracing for what was about to unfold. The members had pieced together fragments of the truth, but now the storm outside was no longer hidden, it was knocking at their door. Episode 8 begins with the tension snapping into reality. The confrontation that had been looming finally arrived. The dorm was no longer just a place of whispered fears, it had become the front line of a battle Stray Kids could no longer avoid. It started with a sudden knock at the door, sharp and deliberate, echoing through the silence. The members froze, their hearts pounding in unison. Hyunjin's fists clenched, his body ready to spring, while Felix's breath caught in his throat. Bang Chan rose slowly, his face pale but his eyes burning with fragile determination. "It's them," he whispered, the words heavy with dread. The door opened, revealing figures cloaked in authority, representatives of the network that had haunted Chan's nights. Their voices were calm, almost rehearsed, but every syllable dripped with menace. "You've had your chance, Chan. Now you decide, your dream or your family." The members surged forward, their unity a shield against the threat. Han's voice cracked with fury. "You don't get to decide that for us. Stray Kids isn't yours to control." Sumin's sharp tone followed, cutting through the tension. "We know what you're doing, and we won't play your game." The confrontation escalated, words clashing like blades. The network's representatives tried to fracture them, whispering promises of solo success, of fame without the burden of unity. But each member stood firm, their loyalty unshaken. In's voice, soft yet unwavering, silenced the room. "We rise together, or not at all." Chan's body trembled, but his voice grew stronger, fueled by the fire of his brothers. "You thought breaking me would break us, but you were wrong. Stray Kids is more than me, it's all of us." His declaration reverberated through the room, a vow that shattered the illusion of control. The network's faces twisted, their calm slipping into frustration. They realized the bond they sought to destroy was unbreakable. The confrontation ended not with violence but with defiance, the members standing shoulder to shoulder, their unity a weapon stronger than any threat. Outside, the city lights flickered, indifferent to the war that had just been fought, but inside the dorm, Stray Kids had won their first battle, not by defeating the network but by refusing to be divided. The storm was far from over, but their vow had been sealed. They would face whatever came next together. Would you like me to continue episode 9 with the *** aftermath of the confrontation ***, where the group begins to rebuild their strength while the network retaliates in subtler, more dangerous ways, or expand episode 8 into a *** full 7,000-word arc *** with cinematic detail and layered psychological conflict. The first sign came in the form of a message slipped under the dorm entrance. A single sheet of paper, stark and cold, with words scrawled in ink that seemed to bleed into the fibers. "You were warned, choices must be made." Hyunjin snatched it up, his hands trembling, his jaw tight with fury. "They're taunting us now. They want us to break." Bang Chan's face paled, his body rigid as he read the words. "This is their way of telling me the time is up. They won't stop until we give in." His voice cracked, the weight of inevitability pressing down on him. Felix stepped closer, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "Then we don't give in, we fight back, together." The members gathered, their emotions raw and unfiltered. Han's usual humor was gone, replaced by a sharp edge. "If they think they can control us, they've underestimated what Stray Kids really is." Seungmin's analytical tone cut through the chaos. "We need to know who's behind this. We can't fight shadows forever." Chan's confession deepened, his words trembling as he revealed the final piece. "It's not just about me. They want Stray Kids to fracture, to lose its soul. They believe if I fall, the rest of you will follow." His voice faltered, but the truth ignited a fire in the others. In, the youngest, spoke with a quiet strength that silenced the room. "Then we show them they're wrong. We don't fall, we rise." His words carried a maturity that struck each member, binding them tighter than ever before. Bang Chan's eyes, once clouded with guilt, now burned with fragile determination. "If they want to tear us apart, they'll have to face all of us, together." The storm had revealed its face, and Stray Kids stood at the edge of confrontation. The truth was no longer hidden, the threat no longer distant. And though the path ahead promised pain and sacrifice, one truth remained unshaken. They would face it as one, no matter how dark the shadows became. Episode 9 begins with the dorm heavy with the aftermath of confrontation. The network had shown its face, and Stray Kids had stood their ground, but the silence that followed was not relief. It was the eerie calm of retaliation waiting to strike. The next morning their schedules were disrupted again. A rehearsal was cancelled without warning, and whispers spread among staff that Stray Kids were difficult and unstable. Seungmin noticed the shift immediately, his sharp eyes catching the way conversations stopped when they entered a room. Hyunjin's frustration boiled over, his voice echoing in the practice hall. "They're poisoning everything around us. If they can't break us from inside, they'll destroy us from outside." Bang Chan sat apart, his body tense, his mind racing. "This is their retaliation. They want to isolate us, make us look like we're falling apart." His voice was hoarse, but his eyes carried the weight of realization. Felix moved closer, his tone steady despite the fear beneath it. "Then we show them we're stronger. We don't let their lies define us." Han's laughter was bitter, stripped of its usual warmth. "But how do we fight something we can't see? They're everywhere, behind the cameras, in the offices, in the whispers." His words cut deep, the truth undeniable. Clenched his fists, his voice trembling but resolute. "We fight by staying together. If they want to break our image, we show the world who we really are." The members gathered, their unity a fragile shield against the storm. Chan's confession deepened, his voice trembling as he revealed the final piece. "They don't just want me, they want Stray Kids to fracture, to lose its soul. They believe if I fall, the rest of you will follow." His words echoed, heavy with dread, but also with defiance. Seungmin's analytical tone cut through the tension. "Then we don't give them what they want. We rebuild ourselves stronger, louder, and more united than ever." His words lit a spark, igniting a fire in the others. Outside, the city pulsed with indifferent life, but inside the dorm, Stray Kids had made a vow. The retaliation had begun, but their bond was unshaken. They would not be pawns, they would not fracture, they would rise even if the world tried to tear them down. Bang Chan's eyes, once clouded with guilt, now burned with fragile determination. "If they want to destroy us, they'll have to face all of us, together." The storm had shifted, becoming subtler, more dangerous. But Stray Kids stood ready, their unity their weapon, their bond their shield. The battle was far from over, but the vow was sealed. They would face whatever came next, side by side. Episode 10 begins with the weight of silence pressing against the dorm walls, the kind of silence that comes after a storm but before the next wave. Stray Kids had faced the network head-on, refusing to fracture, but the retaliation had left scars, rumors swirling, schedules collapsing, and shadows lurking in every corner of their world. Bang Chan sat at the center, his body weary but his eyes alive with a fire that had been reignited by his brothers. "They thought breaking me would break us, but we're still here. And now, we fight not just for ourselves but for what Stray Kids truly means." His words carried through the room, steady and unyielding. Hyunjin's voice followed, sharp and defiant. We show them we're not pawns. We show them we're a family they can't control. Felix's hand rested on Chan's shoulder, grounding him, his tone soft but resolute. Hyung, you carried us for so long, now let us carry you. The members gathered, their unity no longer fragile but forged in fire. Han's laughter returned, not hollow this time, but fierce. If they want to silence us, we'll be louder. If they want to erase us, we'll leave marks they can't wash away. Sumin's analytical gaze sharpened, his words cutting through the haze. We rebuild, stronger than before, not just for us but for everyone who believes in us. In, the youngest, spoke with a quiet strength that silenced the room. We rise together or not at all, that's who we are. His words crystallized the vow they had carried through every storm. The confrontation had revealed the network's true face, but it had also revealed something greater, the unbreakable bond of stray kids. Their unity was not just survival, it was defiance, it was love, it was the very soul of who they were. Outside, the city pulsed with indifferent life, but inside the dorm, stray kids stood at the edge of resolution. The storm had tried to tear them apart, but instead it had bound them tighter. The truth had shattered illusions, but it had also forged a strength that no shadow could extinguish. Bang Chan's final words carried through the night, a declaration that would echo far beyond the walls of their dorm. Stray kids everywhere all around the world, and no one, not even the darkest network, can take that away from us. The battle was over, but the scars remained. Yet in those scars lay proof of survival, of unity, of love. The resolution was not perfect, not without pain, but it was real, and it was theirs. The story closed not with silence, but with the sound of laughter, of voices rising together, of a family unbroken. Stray kids had faced the storm, and though the world might still whisper, they had carved their truth into the night. They were stronger together, and nothing could change that.